Minutes later, you can come back and you will notice that you've got probably about a tablespoon of liquid smoke accumulated in the bottom of the pan. Of course, the more wood you burn, the more liquid smoke you'll make. Yum. Liquid smoke is in. Now, I do all of my marinating, at least all that I can, in zip-top bags because it allows more contact between the marinade and the food. Just have to make sure you get as much air out as possible. I also like it because you can mix like this, which is kind of fun. In fact, if you've got small kids around the house, excellent job for them. And once everything is mixed together, put that back into a containment and stash in the refrigerator for 3 to 6 hours. Less than 3 wouldn't be enough for the cure to take. More than 6 and things will get really, really salty. Once that's done, it's jerky, right? Having soaked for 6 hours, we have drained and pat dry our jerky. Doesn't that look good? Delicious. A little bit smoky, a little bit hot, you know, but not too much. Got the Worcestershire and the soy in there, very, very meaty. But you know what? Something seems to be missing in our texture because I would say this is more floppy than jerky. Nope, it appears that we're going to have to apply some mechanical climatology. You know, when people think dehydration, they usually picture the desert, which is why nobody lives out here. Let's see if somebody's home. Hello? What's this? Appears that I've stumbled into some kind of traveling culinary bazaar. And look. There's a deserted desert damsel in distress.
Who are you calling damsel?
You're right. Veiled threat would be more appropriate.
I certainly hope we're not here just so that you can fulfill some silly, cheap, pathetic, adolescent Major Nelson fantasy. Because
Don't worry, Jeannie. Although that sounds mighty fine, this is all really just a visual metaphor for what I really need, which is a desert in a box, meaning, of course, a food dehydrator.
Well, I don't have one.
You don't have one?
Don't have one.
Go ahead, do the thing. Come on, do it. You know you want to. Sweet. Remind me to talk to you about Ferraris later. But in the meantime, tell me about these dehydrators.
Regardless of design, all food dehydrators are basically the same. The pieces of food are arranged on drawers or stackable stages that are lined with plastic or silicone mesh. A fan in the back or bottom of the enclosure circulates hot air through the food, thus drying it out.
Well, that certainly looks like a desert to me.
That's the problem. Food dehydrators are like deserts.
And that's a bad thing?
Yes.
I'm not following you.
Why does that not surprise me? All right, look. If you stumble around out there for a few days, you're not going to dry up and die. You're going to cook, literally. Since dehydrators can't move enough air to quickly dry out the food, they have to depend on heat, sometimes up to 140 degrees.
Ah, but wouldn't that result in the food in question having a completely different flavor and texture?
Bingo.
Don't you mean bingo, master?
If you really want to dry something out, you need a totally different landscape.
Like what?
Like the very arid, very windy, and very, very, very cold Peruvian highlands.
Okay, I get it. Cool, dry air that's really moving is better for drying things out than the more humid, warm air. Yeah, okay, I got it. Now, how do we get out of here?
Oh, who's we, master?
Well, that worked out well, didn't it? So, if we want to mummify meat, we will need an arid, relatively cool, and very windy environment. Can we make that in our kitchen? No problem. Simply lay out your strips of drained and dried meat on top of the ridges of standard home furnace filters, available at your local friendly hardware store for, I don't know, something like 99 cents. Then break out your Blowhard 4000. Thank you, thank you. Now, you may remember the Blowhard 3000 from our herb shows. Excellent herb dryer, but that was the 3000. This one's better because it's the 4000 there. Okay, so here's how you do it. Thank you. First, stack the filters thusly, right on top of each other, and then top that with one empty filter. There we go. Then lay down your Blowhard 4000 and stack thusly. Then connect the bungee cords so that the hooks are just around the sides of the fan into the grate, nice and secure. Now, personally, I don't mind the house smelling like dried meat products, but if you or anyone in your home does mind that, just plug up your fan and kind of prop it up in your kitchen window, blowing outward, so that the smell goes out to someplace where it will be enjoyed, you know, by dogs, cats, and other critters and whatnot. Now, the time on this will depend on your fan, on the density of your filters, and how thin you cut the meat. I usually start checking on it after about 8 hours, but usually my batches take up to 12. And don't worry, your patience will be rewarded. Now, the only downside to this method is that you're not going to want to use these furnace filters in your furnace. I probably didn't have to say that. Now, I realize this jerky is not very attractive, but believe me, this is the best stuff you will ever lock jaws on. As for storage, well, I would avoid zip-top bags. These things have a tendency to hold moist air right up against the surface of the meat. That'll partially rehydrate it, and it'll be pushing up mold within a month. If, however, you use something nice and open with plenty of room and air in it, well, this stuff will keep for about 40 years. You know, a lot of people think jerky when they go camping. It is, after all, the ultimate trail food. Doesn't have to be preserved, it's easy to keep, and it's gosh darn tasty. But did you know that most of the early American traders, trappers, cowboys, and frontiersmen who lived off of jerky actually used it as an ingredient in cooked foods, usually a stew, a soup, or even a gravy? Want to make some? Okay. Now, let's say that we had 3 to 4 ounces of beef jerky, which I happen to have. So I'd say 10 to 12 pieces, a nice big fistful, and cut that up with either a knife or, even better, scissors or shears. And just snip it into pieces. Smaller is always going to be better, but 1 inch, no longer. And once you've got that cut up, pour over a cup, at least, of hot water and let that steep. Now, while my jerky gently steeps, we will fire up some aromatics. So for that, crank up the faithful camp stove. Pop on a medium-sized skillet, saucier, or saucepan, doesn't really matter. Add 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, thusly, over medium heat, mind you. And add to that 1/2 cup each of chopped onion and chopped green pepper. There we go. And we're going to put just a little bit of salt to that. Remember, the jerky itself is pretty salty, so we just want to add enough to help bring out some moisture for the sweat. I'm going to stir this every now and then for, I'd say, 4 to 5 minutes, or until the aromatics are nice and soft. Shoot. Now, at this point in the cooking process, you may start attracting bears or other predators. Everything looks okay. Time to add some garlic. 2 cloves, either well smashed or minced. There we go. Let that cook for another couple of minutes. Okay, time to add the rest of the ingredients. First, the jerky and all of the soaking water goes in. A 14.5 ounce can or carton of chopped tomatoes, and a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Yes, even in the wilderness, there is heavy cream. Just give that a stir and increase the heat so that we can bring that to a boil. Then we'll reduce it to a simmer. Oh, this would also be a very good time to add some additional flavorants. And I always travel with a little dried parsley. Just a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons will do nicely. There we go. My, would you just look at that meaty lava flow of love. Now let's contemplate a target food, shall we? Now, pasta would be very nice, as would be rice, or even some Texas toast. But my favorite, biscuits. Fresh baked, then split and toasted or broiled. Yum. All you have to do is grab a ladle and you've got yourself a meal to do a cowboy proud. Well, I hope that we have given you a new respect for very old food, as well as the confidence to make it yourself. Not only is beef jerky a satisfying, nutritious snack, it is a flavor-packed ingredient as well that will bring a whole new dimension to your cooking. All in all, I'd say it's an ancient food for a new millennium. Not to mention, seriously good eats.